face of your new police state.
Welcome to the Charles Carroll Society. I am your host, the self-appointed bard of the American Readout. And thank you guys for tuning in, by the way. Please don't forget to smash that like button and hit that subscribe and share these videos. This channel is growing pretty well, and we're trying to put out some good content that we're not getting elsewhere. So I think it's very important for more people to see this content. Today we're going to talk about Black South Africans selling themselves into slavery. And I apologize. One of these days I got to get one of those slick things so I can read and look at the camera, but like all the cool kids on the YouTube have. But right now, you know, you better get to that Patreon if you want me to get that done. One of the big misconceptions of the African slave trade into the U.S. is that white people ran around Africa with some magic nets capturing black people when they were going out to, you know, get their lattes. That's a lie. White people didn't run around Africa trying to capture black people when they were out and about.
You know the story that we got when we were kids, that your ancestor was out on one Sunday with his girlfriend and some white man jumps out of the bush and throws a net over him? It's not how it happened. Slavery was big business. Africans sold other Africans to the Europeans.
In fact, it was the Africans who did the raiding and selling of Africans to the Europeans. No European ever went into the hinterland to raid for slaves. It was the Africans who did it. And before the Europeans even landed here, slavery was already in the system.
Now, as a child of one of the men or women who went through that last gate, who were branded and sold into a world of incredible misery, where most adults, by the way, most people don't realize this, most adult Africans kill themselves, and the average age of an enslaved African that hit the United States coast was 14 and a girl, most of them pregnant by that time. I'm going to have to try to be as dispassionate about this as possible, even though it strikes pretty close to home. Slavery in Africa ran the gauntlet from basically indentured servants who could marry and work themselves out of slavery fairly easily into basically chattel slavery. Chattel slavery is when you treat other humans as if they're not human. Africans treated each other that way. Most definitely North Africans, most definitely Muslims treated people that way. When you were treated as chattel slavery, you were always separate. You could never work or earn your way out of slavery or advance your wretched condition. Now, with that said, Africans sold Africans into slavery. Now, they may have realized that they may have thought slavery was different, but it wasn't all perfect here. There was a band, you know, from indentured servitude all the way to this chattel slavery state. But Africans sold Africans into slavery for money, for personal benefit. Europeans at the time couldn't find most African villages with remote villages, that is, with a map in two hands. There are many reasons for this African on Africa in slave trade, but for this video, let's just leave it as a fact that Africans sold Africans into slavery for personal benefit. The reason I point this out is the current South African politicians in the corrupt ANC and the communist EFF are currently busily selling Africans into slavery yet again. And most Africans are cheering this future enslavement. They're cheering as the chains are put around their neck. And simpletons elsewhere who can't see the forest for the trees cheer the great change that will come when the new slave masters take their stock. And I'll tell you, the new slave masters will speak Mandarin. Julius Malema of the EFF, the Economic Freedom Foundation Party, is busily selling fellow Africans just like the kings of old sold my people into bondage. But he's selling South Africa into Chinese slavery. First, the corrupt ANC tried to sell major parts of Africa and the African taxpayer and the African people to three weird Indian brothers, Gupta brothers, for pennies, by the way, for pennies. You betray your people and you sell out your own nation for pennies, for scraps. This is always an evidence of a worthless and pathetic upbringing. Look at this shiny thing. Oh, I got to have that. In America, it's spinning rims. Now the ANC, the corrupt ANC, and the communist EFF alliance is busily seizing land and parts of the South African economy so the Chinese can gain control of it. One of the parties, which are black South Africans and white South Africans, called the Democratic Alliance. It's a South African political party that seems fairly moderate for the times, at least, have called on the South African Eskom power utility to make public the terms of its 33.4 billion rand loan from the Chinese Development Bank.
Thank you so much for having us on air, Oli. First of all, I think it's important for us to state, given that Eskom's extremely tenuous financial situation, we have noted the loan that's been offered by the China Development Bank. And of course, it is a step in the right direction. It's a positive step. It will help to stabilize the SOE in the short to medium term. However, our position as NUMSA is that this loan, we can only fully endorse it once we know for a fact that this investment will actually translate into benefits for local companies. We know from our experience in the past as Chinese companies that when they get involved, they often bring in their own expertise. They often bring in, it often results in a benefit for Chinese businesses. We would like to see this relationship translating into a benefit for South African-owned companies and translate into a benefit which will result in job creation for South African workers and not the import of skills from overseas.
Headquarters of Eskom, north of Johannesburg, Eskom generates approximately 95% of the electricity used in South Africa and approximately 45% of the electricity used in the continent of Africa. The Chinese, of course, are nice enough to bail out a South African state-run department, which have been running at a loss forever. And it is obvious what the payback would be. The EFF is busily leading the ANC by the nose so that China can seize the land and resources of South Africa. You can think the Chinese are just helping out South Africans because they're just nice people. They just want to be good neighbors. But everyone else is smarter than that. Many of the farms initially targeted for seizure by the South African government have massive mineral wealth on them. Minerals that the Chinese people, the Chinese government, the Chinese state are desperate to get their hands on. Please remember, I was one of the first people to point out that in Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, there were Chinese-backed rebels in those nations. And I made the connection that there have been many outside people, primarily Zimbabweans, who have been helping criminal elements in South Africa do these farm attacks. Please note, fellow black people in South Africa and all the rest of South Africa. Unlike the English in North America and the Spanish in Central and South America, Chinese don't need bodies. They don't need people to work the land. They need the land. They don't need you. The Chinese have too many people as it is. Wonder what will happen to the incompetent South Africans who follow the communist EFF and Julius Malema and his ignorant 12-year-old childlike communist policies and adopt this Maoist Chinese approach. I can tell you this, and you can watch my words. Julius Malema and his wife and his children, they're going to end up living in all-white Switzerland or somewhere, in nice home, fancy cars, beautiful schools for his children. And yet again, the people of Africa will end up powerless. But this time, the people of Africa will be lucky if they end up enslaved. Because I will say again, the Chinese don't need the people. They have too many already. They need the land, and they need the resources. See your future. Know your fate. Viva Crystal Ray. Viva Crystal Ray. Viva Crystal Ray, the Virgin of Guadalupe.